All right, welcome everybody. Happy Wednesday, almost to summer. I think the 20th. What day is today? The 16th or something? Can't even keep track of my days. 16th. Summer's in 4 more days, so summer solstice, that is. But great to have you here. This is our third week of our introduction to business climate leaders and getting us engaging with companies. So really appreciate you being here. So week 3, what we're going to look at, we started with kind of an overview in week 1 of what BCL is about and kind of our approach. We talked last week about how we a little more specifically engage companies and in terms of targeting companies, doing a little bit of research and planning emails to draft and get out to them. Today, we're actually going to kind of jump ahead, if you will, to actually what a meeting might look like. Give you an idea of that and actually break out and have a little fun doing role plays where we can actually each kind of practice what it would be like to be in a meeting with an executive. Again, want it to be, the key focus here is on the second word, play. So want it to be fun. There's no right or wrong in this. We're just learning as we go. And as obviously all your parents and professors tell you, we learn a lot more from when we don't know the answers or we make some mistakes along the way and learn as we go. So really want that to be the focus. So, and then next week, the plan is to kind of talk a little bit more on kind of questions that come up and engaging with companies and get the next step in actually starting to engage with companies, okay? So today, we're gonna just quickly go over what we reminder or principle. I guess it's reminder of principles. Introduce anybody who is here for the first time. Talk about our emails that hopefully you've had a chance to start drafting or thinking about, and hopefully there will be a few of you willing to share. Start talking about what an effective meeting would look like when we actually get to the point of meeting with executives and what we would be asking for of them. And then we'll do our role play and wrap things up. So I just want to say 2 things. If any of you had a chance to be part of the CCL conference last Saturday, I wasn't able to be there, but I listened to the keynote, Jerry Taylor, who's a fascinating guy. So if you haven't, would highly encourage you to at least listen to his keynote. And Jerry Taylor is a guy, he was one of the staunchest, I think you could probably say he wrote the book on climate denialism. He was at the Cato Institute. He was kind of running their communications and was all about how do we message against climate. And at one point, he actually looked at the facts and said, my arguments aren't lining up with reality. And obviously, this is something I see a concern for. So he set up his own think tank now, this Niskanen Institute, and he's really, I would say, one of the leaders on in the conservative libertarian side in terms of we need to do something about climate. It's not just this liberal socialist thing. It's something that is really concerning to us as humanity and something that we as conservatives can be a part in and should be a part in engaging. And what I wanted to say on that is, he said it's really challenging at this point in time to get the Republican Party to move. But he said the number one constituency of the Republican Party is business. So getting the voice of businesses heard, and businesses already starting to shift more and more sustainable and working on and pushing for the need for climate action. And then also businesses not necessarily towing the line from the last administration and in terms of some of the values of the party and wanting to see change. And the other piece I also mentioned is youth as well, particularly conservative youth of the future of the Republican Party being very much concerned and engaged on seeing climate action. Okay, Mark.
Yeah, very good. So before I start, I just want to show off a little pin that a fellow member of my local chapter. No, can you see this? I can't see me.
Yeah,
you
we can see it.
Brought over today. We have a meeting with our congressman tomorrow, and we're all going to be wearing these on our Zoom call. And this is a 100-year snapshot of global warming in the United States, going from 100 years ago. So these are colder than average years to last year, warmer than average. And it's kind of a neat thing. it's a nice conversation starter. So yeah, we thought it was pretty neat. We're gonna wear them. Looks like a pride button, but it's not quite. Okay, so principles that we're working with. So of course we're dividing up into teams. So we're going to be working as teams and be part of a team. As Randy said, we're going to learn as we go. None of us know it all. In fact, Randy and I'm sure Randy would agree with this, learn every day as we do this. And working with a team, be a listener, be creative, listen to, be open to doing things different ways. Momentum these days are in our favor. We're getting more and more signees. More businesses are paying attention. Just a new report today out on droughts in the West got a lot of people's attention, but still getting businesses to sign on takes time. So we've got to be patient. And as we go along, if you're not sure, ask. Brandy and I are always available to answer questions. So I think most of you have been here before, but I think I saw a name or two, somebody who's not been here for the first couple of weeks. So if you haven't, just unmute yourself, please, and speak up and introduce yourself. No, I thought I saw, maybe not. Okay, very good. Well, then we've all been here. And if you've missed any of the first two, of course, we're taping these also. Please go back and take a look. And then I'm not going to go through this again because we went through this last week, but there's a lot of good information on these slides that we're sending you afterwards. So I hope you're keeping them. And particularly as you're starting to look at your contacts, for contacts, there's some great examples here. There's some great sites to look at. And LinkedIn in particular. I think we talked a little bit about LinkedIn, but using your contacts and using your contacts who have contacts that will be valuable to us is very, very important. And again, at the bottom, patience, politeness, persistency are the key words in trying to move in a positive direction here. Okay. All right. So with that, let's get into some new territory. And one of the things we asked you to do is to try to start working on some introductory emails that you would send to one of your target companies. And we wanted to take a few minutes just to hear some of them. So if somebody would be brave enough and unmute themselves and share with us one of their introductory emails, just to kind of hear what you're all doing and help us get some other ideas for a way to approach this. Who would like to go?
I can talk about mine if you'd like, but I probably won't read the whole thing because I don't know, it's like in paragraphs. So I'm kind of trying to figure out how to make it a little bit more concise. But this is for specifically the Colorado Farm Bureau. So I was trying to pull messaging from the BCL resources website specific for agriculture. So I start out by introducing myself saying I'm Allison Roth and I'm a volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby from Fort Collins. And then I say last year, Colorado faced record wildfires that directly impacted our homes, natural resources, and farmlands. And it seems that there are more to come this year because there's actually one right now. So I might even like put in an article about that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then I said climate change brings rising temperatures that lead to extreme heat, wildfire on rangelands, and heavy downpours that are expected to increasingly disrupt agricultural productivity in the US, which is pulled directly from the BCL website. So I just copied that sentence. And then in the next paragraph, I'm saying, with this in mind, I'm happy to tell you about a big climate solution, the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, which again, I'm copying from one of the cool email examples that you gave us. So yeah, I still need to finish it, but so far that's what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, one thing you might think about, you might all think about when you do this is whether you also want to identify yourself as a student.
That's a
For
good point.
me, when I get an email from somebody who's also a student, I'm a volunteer and a student, and it's a good email, I'm impressed. And I'm also
Mhm.
impressed that, you know, you would take your time to do this.
That's a good point. I can definitely add that.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think you
Good
also
start.
want to state, student at Colorado State. So, that it's somebody local that especially, I think, I may be wrong here, but I think Colorado State is more the ag focused
Yeah,
as well. So that
it is.
I would think might hold some, get their attention as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's great.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
Allison.
you,
I appreciate
Allison.
you sharing. And the other thing for me too is to find a way to ask maybe upfront, like what it is you want. I'm such and such, and would appreciate a few minutes of your time, or would like to see if we could set up a meeting to talk about climate solutions, or the impact of climate on the ag industry. Because oftentimes, people, if you get a long email, it's like they'll kind of just scan through. But if you can kind of start up top with, they have a sense of, oh, this person wants to meet with me, and see if you can catch them from there. Okay.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else have one that they want to share with us, or at least the beginning of it? Okay, I'm thinking we maybe we haven't gotten there yet. But with Allison's start there, I hope you all feel incentivized to work on yours, and think about how you want to introduce yourself. Another thing I might say is you might also use in there, as you know, comma, da 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 da, because a lot of these groups have thought about these things, or let's assume that they've thought about these things. So that's good.
Good. Yeah, and I think just to prep for let's plan. So if you guys plan on this for next week, we'll spend some more time. So if each of you would have a kind of a draft email ready, either as part of your group or individually, that would be great. We can share those. All right. Well, email is the starting point. Where we're trying to get to is developing a relationship, and hopefully we'll be able to get some positive contact with these people we're reaching out to actually have a meeting. So in terms of what it is, preparing for a meeting, the first piece is just kind of look at the overall strategy. What is the strategy for engaging this company, this as well as this executive? If there's anything, as Mark mentioned, LinkedIn, I'll always, when I know, similarly, if I'm meeting with a member of Congress or an aide, we'll kind of look at their LinkedIn profile to see, oh, dude, I know where they went to school, or somebody, or they're involved in this organization. And similarly, when we're meeting with an executive, the more background and any connection that you can make, to them as an individual is the ideal. And then also to them as a company, in terms of what anything you might know, or be a customer, or love what they're doing, and part of it will be appreciating some of the things that you're doing. And think about what it is specifically. We talked about it a bit last week, of how you craft what CCL Business Climate Leaders is doing, how this actually will resonate with them. What's the most effective way? What part of the Energy Innovation Act, carbon pricing, will be beneficial to them as a business? Start thinking about open-ended questions. You guys may have done some of your training in terms of talking with legislators, or you will do that as part of the summer advocacy program, but really want to make this in a dialogue when we're meeting with an executive. That's not just us. I know that we have so much that we want to say and that we're passionate about it, we can end up kind of monopolizing and not actually hearing things from their side and what's important to them, or what issues they have, or what concerns. And then we'll talk about figuring out appreciations and what it is that we're going to ask them, and at least to sketch out a meeting agenda. Usually, if it's a meeting I have, sometimes I'll actually send kind of send them a little bit of information up front for them to look at, or give them a sense in terms of the timing and what we're going to actually be talking about during the meeting. And when we go into a meeting, similar to how we go in and talk to members of Congress.
Excuse me, Randy. I
Yeah.
think we're missing the right side of your screen. I think it's blocked.
Good.
Thank you.
Is that we'll each have roles, that there, or let's just say there's these different roles that we want to make sure are covered when we're in a meeting. Sometimes I actually go into a meeting with the company on my own, and I'm the one that is doing all these things. But in your case, you'll be going in with, one of us or somebody more experienced, as well as perhaps a couple members of your team or members of this intern cohort. So there'll be different people that will take on these roles. The lead, who the lead person is, which is typically the person that set up the meeting, but it could also be somebody that has familiarity with that company or that industry. Somebody who's going to offer appreciation of what this executive and what that company is doing, just a way that we're coming in there really trying to meet them where they're at. Like, even if they have, they set a low carbon emissions target, it's like, wow, it's great that you guys have started there and that you have that set and that you guys are really working toward this. Time, really trying to be respectful of time, as Mark and I do. We're trying to, keep things on time in terms of our internal meetings. Also, when we're meeting with a member of Congress or executives, we want to be upfront about how much time do you have? Do you have 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and really stick to that. It just helps to create goodwill for a long-term relationship, even though it may mean that we don't get everything out on the table that we wanted to. But it also, in that case, if that's the case, then it gives us an opportunity for a follow-up meeting. And somebody asking, as with meeting with a member of Congress or meeting with these executives, we always want to ask them for something. They know that we're meeting with them to ask them that there's something that we want them to get involved with. And that ask could be, which I'll get into a little more detail, but could be as simple as, hey, I'd like to ask, that we set up another meeting, that you look through this information if you're open to that, and we set up a meeting in 2 weeks. It may be as simple as that, or maybe more formal in terms of, we'd like you to sign this declaration or join us in a lobby meeting. And then, of course, we want to take notes and we want to document kind of what goes on so that we can keep a record, which helps, because I forget what happened in the last meeting that was a week ago, and let alone, out in the future, if you or somebody else is following up with those companies. Okay. So things that we're asking for when we're going in, there's a whole, I actually, if you click on this link, I'll show you, there's a whole list of different things, from little things that are simple in terms of them. Just one would be for another follow-up meeting. Another would be for them actually signing, one of our declarations, or signing on and endorsing HR 2703, the Energy Innovation Act. One could be in terms of educating their employees, letting us help them or be part of writing a letter in their newsletter, or if them giving us a contact or somebody to talk to in their trade organization, introducing us to those trade organizations or other people they think that we could talk to. And then the grand gesture, the grand ask, and where we'd love to be with people is on top here, which is them engaging with members of Congress, them either with us or on their own, engaging with members of Congress, and telling them that that climate is a concern for them. It's impacting their business now. They're very concerned about it in the future, and they want Congress to act, asking Congress to act. Okay. With that, just wanted to take a breather for myself and Mark and just see if there's kind of any questions on that before we dive in a little bit deeper.
I have a question on the asks. What typically is, like, out of those asks, do you start with the first one? Like, when it's an introductory meeting, is there typically one that you ask them, like, to be educating their employees first before necessarily like asking about Congress? Is there like an order of which you tend to prioritize those?
Mark, do you want to?
Yeah. So, I mean, you really have to play it by ear a little bit going in. I mean, I think you ask for the most you think you could possibly get without getting thrown out of the room. And be ready for a no. Like, that's very nice. We wish we could do that, but we're just not there yet. Okay, then you kind of, you've got your secondary, tertiary ask. well, yeah, I understand you can't take a position on this yet. You don't know about it, but yeah, how about you let us come in and talk to your staff, your senior staff about it, or whatever you think you can get. I think you've got to play it by ear a little bit.
Yeah, and I typically will go in with a couple things in mind, as part of strategizing with the team that's going in for the meeting. We'll kind of say, okay, what do you think that we want to ask for? And then you will play it by ear. If they're, wow, it's so great to have you here, really excited about what you guys are doing, how can I help? That's obviously like an open door. And then you may throw out what you started with and jump to something else. Or it could be, as you're going through it, you just see that they're either not the right person or don't feel comfortable, or just need to digest it, and then you kind of adjust, as Mark is saying, accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so the answer is have a script in your mind, but be prepared to get off that script. And in football, they would say call an audible if you see the conversation going in another direction.
Thanks, great question.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question as well. So I understand that our approach for these meetings with business representatives are similar to the lobbying meetings that CCL conducts with congressmen and women. I'm wondering if the rule of thumb that whoever you're speaking with, whatever representative you're speaking with, you try to balance the time between how much they talk and how much you talk, and you try to you try for it to be half and half by the end of the meeting. I don't know if that's a rule of thumb just across CCL for everything that we will do for meetings. So I was just wondering if you could kind of speak to that. Should we be aiming for that half and half time between speakers?
Yeah, I would say it's a good balance for life. I try to remind my wife that too. I tend to be more quiet. She tends to be more effusive, and I'm it's so it's I think it's a good kind of metric, if you will. And like Mark was saying, you kind of have to go with the flow when you're in the meeting, in the sense that some people either they're asking you questions, and they keep kind of asking and for more information, so you end up talking more, or you ask questions and they give short answers. But ideally, I think going in there, you want to strike that balance between us telling them about what we're up to, and then them sharing kind of where they're at, and us learning more about them, and how we might in the end kind of find some connection to move forward.
Yeah,
Mark?
I would add to that by saying that, first of all, you only learn by listening, right? Not by talking. So you really do need, and you want them to be talking a lot. Usually when you put these meetings together, you end up saying, okay, you're going to talk about this for 4 minutes. I'm going to talk about this for about 6 minutes, and it adds up to 30 minutes. And then you don't leave enough time for them. So usually the other side talks more than you've planned. So you need to plan for that. And you really need to be very concise in your talking. Really think about the main points and how to be concise in getting them across, so that you leave a lot of time for them to talk.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
Yeah, thanks, Vanna.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question.
Any other question? So here, and again, what we're talking about now is just kind of a framework, and just to give us, kind of a path forward. And then once you're in a meeting, it kind of, as with the conversation, it may go different ways. But so typically, there's going to be an introduction. You'll check in on time. Hey, great to see you. I think you mentioned you have half an hour. Is that still the case, or how much time do you have? Great, I appreciate that. What it is that we really like about what you're doing, or what we know about you, or what's inspired us to connect with you. A short introduction on on kind of BCL, CCL, and then have an open discussion around kind of asking them, hey, where are you at it on climate policy? Or I see that you guys committed to these climate goals. What are the kind of the key aspects that you're working on to get there? Or, you know, have you thought about or been involved in, you know, talking with legislators at all? What's your experience been with that? Things like that. What are the kind of get a little bit more in terms of the Energy Innovation Act, what we're doing, why we see carbon pricing as a kind of foundation piece to that, and then what we're asking of them. How would we like to ask them for another meeting, or to learn more about the EIA, or get involved with us in some other way. And then okay, we have that. So this is what these are the things that you asked for. I'm gonna send you these things. And I'll give you a call or send you an email in 2 weeks to set up a follow-up meeting. So that's kind of a general framework. And I'm gonna give you here a 5-minute version of a 30-minute meeting. Can you give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear this all?
Hey, good morning, Bruce.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good, as best you can these days.
Oh, a lot of stuff going on. Randy and I are just delighted that you have time to meet with us today, so thank you. In fact, just to make sure, what's your time frame like?
I got about a half an hour.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Well, I gotta say straight off, I'm one happy customer. Thank you for the solar panels. Your crew did an excellent job, and we're loving them. So thank you.
Great, I'll let them know.
Please do. Okay, so as you know, we're here to talk to you about Citizens Climate Lobby and the work that we do, the bipartisan work that we do. And we're, again, just really glad for your time today.
Sure.
Did you get a chance to look at the information we sent along, Bruce?
I did. I just skimmed over it, though. I'd like
Okay.
a recap, if you could.
Oh, yeah, happy to. So as Sarah said, we're part of Citizens Climate Lobby. We're volunteers, and there's over 200,000 of us in the US. And we have local chapters in every congressional district. And as Sarah mentioned, we are working on bipartisan to raise bipartisan support for climate action. So we're meeting with every member of Congress 3 to 4 times a year. And we have been instrumental and are engaged in getting federal carbon pricing passed, specifically a bill that's now introduced in the House called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. And the 3 tenets of that are putting a steadily rising price on fossil fuels at the source, taking all that money and giving it back equally to every US citizen on a monthly basis, and having a border carbon adjustment to make sure that US businesses are competitive. And also, I think even more importantly, or equally importantly, is to encourage other countries to enact similar policies.
Yeah.
So we believe this overall framework is both, it will be good for your business and good for the economy as a whole. It will grow jobs, it will lower pollution, which is great for our health, and it's great for the environment in that it will help get us on track to meet what scientists are telling us is essential in terms of lowering greenhouse gas emissions.
As a business person, as a business person, Bruce, and the industry that you're in, the carbon-free industry, it's really important to understand that this is a market-based solution. Randy and I both know that you worked on some cap and trade policy, and so wondering if you have
it's just in a nutshell, why do you like carbon fee and dividend better than cap and trade?
Well, most importantly, it's equitable and it's transparent. It's a simple solution. It's a market-based solution, and it works across the board. Yeah,
gasoline as well as power plants, I understand.
Exactly.
All right, that sounds good. So I'm interested, and my partner, I will talk to my partner about this, and if she goes along with it, then we'd like to be able to help you. What would that look like?
Well, you have a lot of options. You can talk to your employees. You can talk to your colleagues, especially since you're in the carbon-free industry. They're a significant voice as well. And you can meet with us with your members of Congress. to support this bill. And what would be really great is if you went ahead and considered signing an endorsement for the act. I believe we sent over a link to the carbon-free declaration. You should find it there somewhere.
Yeah.
To you again if you can't find it. But you know, having your support and others in your industry put your signature on to this declaration would be really important.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, do I get a commission on any referrals?
Absolutely, of course.
That's the way it works. Well, boy, I really appreciate the time you're spending on this. I've really got to go now. If I have any more questions, should I get in touch with you or?
Please do, and we'll make sure to follow up with you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and
we're
happy
really
to meet again. Happy to meet with you and your with your partners or employees or whatever we can do to support. We're here.
Yeah, well, considering the dark skies that we've got out there, I really appreciate all the work that you folks have put into this over the years, and keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and we're looking forward to working with you too.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, there's a little quick snapshot of what it can look like with awkward pauses and stumbling over my words a little bit as well. And it's more about showing up than it is about getting it perfect. So with that, we're gonna do some play. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna have an opportunity. I'm gonna pull this up here. Let me put this in chat. We have a number of different scenarios you'll see here, and I'm going to pop you in groups. I think there's 14 of us. It's minus Mark and I, 12. So I think we'll go in 3 groups of 4. Does that sound good, Mark?
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea.
And so what I will have you guys do is go through here. Don't take more than 30 seconds, just kind of read through. One's on a scenario for a chamber of commerce, one's for a solar company, one's for a brewer, one's for a local restaurant, and fish food is a kind of a seafood business, and trucking and logistics. But just pick one. Don't worry about spending too much time. Just do something, do a quick poll or somebody make a quick decision, and then read into the scenario, and you'll see the scenario has one person as an executive. So pick one of you who wants to be the executive, who will be the person that the BCLers, CCLers will be meeting with. And that would leave 3 people as CCL, BCL team. And then take 10 minutes to kind of strategize. And you'll see on this document, if you go down, well, let me put it in chat right now. Chat. Okay, pull that up. You'll see if you go down here, there's a list of the different roles and a little bit of sample dialogue and some sample questions if you need that. But more than that, just talk about, for a brewery, you're meeting with a brewery, what do you think would be the key things, both concerns that the brewer would have and also what you think the opportunity and why working with somebody like Business Climate Leader, CCL, would be, and getting and more than that, getting legislation action on climate passed would be important to their business. Okay. So we'll take 10 minutes to kind of plan, and then I'll send a text out when it's time to, or send a chat out when it's time to go ahead and do your meeting. So just plan it like it's a meeting. You're coming in, hi, great to see you, nice to meet you, so-and-so. And we'll just sit down, appreciate you having us here, and go into it and kind of play. And obviously it's a playing scenario, so you can kind of, help the company can help feed the questions or answers to the CCLers and back and forth. And Mark and I will kind of bounce around the different rooms to help you out in doing that. And then we'll come back and kind of reflect on our experience and what came up, what was challenging, what interesting kind of things that came out of it for you. Okay. Anything else, Mark, on that? No, you're muted, Mark. Still muted, Mark? Did you have anything, Mark?
No, it looks good. I couldn't find my unmute. Yeah, let's let let's move into those.
Okay. And Mark, I'll put you in a group to start out, and then you want to text me when you want to pop into another group, and I can move you.
Very good.
Here we go. All right. Have fun. Smile. Great. Appreciate everybody diving in, at least the two groups that I was in, and I'm sure the one Mark was in as well. We're doing great. So really wonderful to hear you guys kind of navigating your way, and incredibly articulate, and you know, just there's you have the base, at least from what I've heard. You guys are really kind of starting to understand what it is we're about, what we're doing, how to just engage with the company. So with that, what questions, what popped up, what didn't you have answers to, what did you struggle with other than time?
I think having specific language for how we describe like the Carbon Fee and Dividend Act, because I know when we were talking about it, I think that it was we were having a hard time like figuring out what is the right way to describe it, especially like to someone who like it's completely new to them. So if you could direct us to like specific language that we can just like read or have as bullet points, that would be so helpful.
Yeah, you got it, Amanda. Yeah, it's there. It's just I'll send that out. It's exactly how do you say things concise and upfront, and then you can have, as Cooper was saying, you can have a larger discussion if they're interested and want to get into the weeds, but at least what that initial framework is, and I'm happy to send that. And again, just a reminder on all this is we kind of threw you into this in role playing, but if it was a real meeting, we would be, you know, you'd be with Mark or I or somebody else who has more experience. So we would help to facilitate that and plan, have more time, obviously, to plan and prepare for it. So, but thank you, Amanda, for pointing that out. That's great. Any other? Go ahead.
And we would have done more research too.
Yeah.
And in fact, so one of the groups asked, you know, what happens if you ask them what the effect of climate change is on your business, and they say there is none. You know, what do you do then? And by having done some research, we would have said, well, you know, good for you so far, but you know, others in your industry are saying to be watching out for this and that, and these are the effects that it could have.
I have a quick question. How do you know like when you're pushing too hard or you're not pushing enough on certain issues or asks?
First of all, I said Cooper, but it was Griffin, so my apologies. Yeah, it's how do you know when you're pushing your parents too far? So it's a fine line, I guess. On one hand, I think on the whole, my experience is we tend to probably ask less than we probably could. And it's okay to be passionate and excited about what we believe in, the action we want. And then you just kind of have to read this situation when you're going, and you'll usually get cues from an executive. They'll say, they'll either, like get distracted, start looking at something else, or kind of either shut you down or kind of want to wrap the meeting up or whatever. And I don't know, Mark, do you have other tangible thoughts on that?
I mean, body language cues, are they leaning in? Do they have their arms folded? That's, whether they're kind of agreeing with you, are they nodding their head as you talk? And then if you're not sure and you just think you're getting into unknown territory, at some point, you can stop and say, what do you think so far about what I've told you?
Yeah.
But that's, people are difficult.
But I think that's a really good one, is don't be afraid to ask. Hey, I'm not sure if I'm getting the right connection here on this. Is it, is there anything different that I can talk to you about or tell you about? Or I'm not phrasing it very well now, but it's okay to kind of ask. So I realize we're at the top of the hour. So I am willing to, I'd love to talk more with you. We can also talk more next week about this, what comes up, but I will stick around for a little bit more. But before I do that, I just wanted to kind of roll out the last kind of things for the following week, kind of just recapping more what we did last week in terms of still working on companies and contacts that you put on the spreadsheet, checking, making sure that they're in the Grass Tops engagement tracker, scheduling a meeting with your team if you haven't done so already, to kind of start talking about companies, start working on your draft emails, and make sure you're connected with your local CCL chapter. Okay. So with that, feel free to take off if you need to. If you do have other questions that you want to talk about now, then let me know. Let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
I met with my chapter yesterday, and I briefly told them about the Palo Alto urban forestry section that I was going to reach out to. So they said it's in the Silicon Valley North jurisdiction, so they couldn't really help me with that. But they said that each department can't really weigh in on policy, but only the main head of the city government can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So who do I reach out to if my contact's in that department only?
Okay. Well, let's talk. Shall we talk on the phone? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's find a time to do that. I'm actually in Silicon Valley North, so I can connect with the Grass Tops people there, and we can talk about. And it still may be worthwhile just to have a meeting with that person if they're open to it, and just to get a sense from them of how they would work within their organization to support or get involved with something like this. Thanks, Neha.
Good. Other questions?
I have a quick question. If we reached our limit on the searches for Rocket Reach, I know in that one slide that you listed a couple good resources. Is there another one that we could use?
Yeah, the other one, a couple of things. One is Viola Norbert is the other one I've used, this one here. Whoops. And you can also just search on the, search Google, contact email or email finder, and you could see what other service there is. And BCL also has a Rocket Reach account. So if you want to, I can figure out how to get you access to that, or I can plug in the contacts that you do have. But yeah, let's see what those other ones, and let's talk whenever we're talking tomorrow, Friday, I think.
Yeah, that would be great. I had a list of 10, but that was a very preliminary list because I've now been in contact with the Chamber of Commerce person in my chapter, as well as a couple professors who work with certain businesses. So I think my list is going to shift. So I was searching a bunch that I now need new contacts for.
Great.
So
That's great. Great. Sounds like you're doing some really good connecting, and that's great.